Welcome back to another episode of the Consistency Engine Podcast. I am your host, Dane Patton, and with me as always, Chase Collier. Chase, what's going on this week? How you been?
Doing good, being productive, jumping through hoops, learning new challenges, and just moving forward.
Yes, it's it's summertime here, so we're just finished up Q2, and we're heading into Q3. And I think it'd probably be a good time to maybe have an episode where we kind of review kind of a mid-year goal process.
Yes.
You know, we've talked about setting goals in the past, and now we're at this place where it's like, okay, well, we have a lot of data. We know kind of where we're sitting. Well, we should know where we're sitting when it comes to whatever those goals that we set for ourselves. Hopefully you set those, Q4, and then you started those in Q1, and you've been working on them. And the first quarter, I don't change a whole lot in the first quarter. Second quarter is when we start making a little bit of changes, and now we're into quarter 3, and that's really where everything should be coming together in Q3. And then we start working on next year's goals come October, November. So let's kind of go through a review process and talk about that.
Yeah, for goals, everyone talks about them. Everyone sets goals, should say quote unquote, everyone sets goals for themselves. Most people do, but a lot of people don't really track them. That becomes December, January, write down New Year's resolution, write down goals for finances for next year, family, fitness, nutrition, business, income, where do I want to be? And normally around February, March, most people are like, oh, I haven't ever looked at that again. Gets to the end of the year and they didn't track anything. They didn't pay attention. That is not how you make progress. Yes, you did step 1, you set the goal, which is great, but it needs to be measured. It needs to be tracked. And if you are not on track for your goals at this point, halfway through the year, that is perfectly fine. You are tracking, you are doing more than most people are doing. You're not just dreaming about it, you're paying attention to it. And it is okay to course correct. I want to come out just point blank and say, if you are not to your Q2 goal yet, that is fine. There's time. We have 2 quarters left. We have more years ahead. But you taking the time to track the goals is important. You analyzing them, you checking where you are at. If anyone and most people have flown in an airplane, it normally does not fly in a straight line. The pilots and the autopilot on the airplane course correct 99% of your flight. You're normally not on the same line that a map drew out for you before you got in the air. And that should be the same way that you look at goals. It's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be exact. You're probably going to come in a little above or a little under where you were hoping to be. And from there, you can analyze and do some sort of analysis, whether it's with you or your team, and figure out what went great and what didn't go good, and then fix that.
Yeah, we've talked about plenty of times. What gets tracked gets improved, and this is a lovely topic that I love to talk about because it's been so crucial in my personal and professional development. Whatever it is that I've wanted to achieve or I thought that was possible, it all came with a plan, came with a goal, and then we created a plan on how we were going to get there. And whether or not it's taken more or less time than what we gave it still got accomplished. And the only reason it did is because we set a goal, and then we said, okay, well, if I just set this lofty goal, but I give myself, any kind of metrics to be looking at or tracking or trying to hit every single week or month or quarter, then it makes it really like that goal's really scary then, right? or like the goal to lose 100 pounds. Well, I'm going to go remove my legs, real quick, and then I can get rid of 100 pounds. No, like, okay, well, what do I have to do? I've got to do this a little bit every single day for that to happen. And that's how we do it. And then when we get to a point, it's like, okay, well, I'm down 50 pounds, or I'm up 50% in revenue. Awesome. Like, I know where I'm at. Now I can reassess. Now I only have to lose 50 pounds and not 100 pounds. Or, now I wanted to be up 30%, but I'm up 50%. So now maybe I can take a little bit more risk, or we can pull back on something over here and reallocate some energies or resources somewhere else, so we can do more things. But if I just said, okay, well, I'm going to grow by $100,000, and then not be like, well, what's that per month? Have I taken seasonality into effect? I'm not just going to grow 10,000 every single month. Maybe it's 2,000 one month, and it's 15,000 one month, and understanding that. Same thing with my health. It's like, oh crap, I didn't get 15,000 steps in this week, or yesterday. Well, and maybe I have to do a little bit more today, or instead of doing 20,000, maybe I split that down and fill in the gaps, and understanding, like, because I'm tracking all of this, so I know it. And it's just like, well, if I didn't do it today, probably won't do it tomorrow, and let's just we throw it all away. No, you have a bad day, you get back up and you just do the same thing the next day.
Do not tell yourself we will start again next week, or someday, or on Monday.
Yeah.
Another aspect, and we haven't talked about this too much, but is debt. If you are somebody with student loan debt, car debt, credit card debt, track it the exact same way as you would your business, your fitness, your nutrition. Because if you look at your debt every month for 12 months, you're probably going to pay so much more attention to it and pay down debt faster than if you just said January, hey, I want to be debt free at the end of the year, and do nothing with it. And if you track that and can make extra payments towards principal on something, or hey, I saved money this week, this month, I didn't eat out, I didn't drink, I didn't splurge on anything, hey, I can pay more towards my debt. So like, this isn't just for the business side of it, it can be for personal goals as well. Another good one to look at is, hey, this year I want to take my family to Disney World, and I don't want to go cheap on it. I want to take them on a really nice trip to Disney World. Well, are you saving accordingly? Do you have money put in that bucket to pay for Disney World? And if you're a little short, what needs to change? How much more do you need to work the next 3 months to change that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big principle here is what we focus on expands. And if we set goals at the beginning of the year and we're not tracking and we're not focused on them, then how are we going to redirect or actually even accomplish them? So, I like to look at my P&L, sometimes daily, but I'm looking at it every single week. But the P&L tells me of what has already happened, right? And that's good information to go off of, but I've also forecasted, and I'm constantly forecasting for the next, January. We just finished June of 2026. Now I'm forecasting June of 2027. So I'm looking at what we did here, and then coming up, okay, if we're going to grow this much, this is the plan for that next year. And I'm always kind of working forward and thinking about what's going to happen a year down from where we're at. And I know I'm going to have to start doing that even farther, probably, because as we grow and as we scale and things get bigger, I've got to be able to make decisions now that's going to affect a year or 2 or 3 down the road. And having the data and looking at the data is the only way that I'm able to make those forecasts.
And in other perspectives as well, in your shoes, is that if you expand and keep expanding and need to go to a bank and pull out a loan or something to continue expansion, they want to see the data. They want to see the forecast. They want to see what we call a pro forma, which is future numbers that are predicted off of past results. And if you're already on top of those and know which way that it's forecasting and going, it's so much easier to go to banks, to investors, to other parties and be like, hey, these are our projections based off of this historical data. And you can do similar things with your personal finances. You can do it with fitness of, hey, I've saved this amount of money this year. I've paid down this debt. I know that I'm going to make more in the next 6 months. Therefore, in the next year, I'll actually have this fully paid off.
That's right. And then you're ready to take on more debt.
Yes.
Well, hopefully it's good debt. No, it's so we're starting Q3 now when this podcast comes out, and so what are some things that you look on, let's say your business and in your budgets and that, like what kind of things are you looking at to get accomplished in Q3? Because for me, I think that's like I said, that's really when everything comes together and we make our biggest push is in Q3. Because like I said, we came up with the plan in Q4, we started instituting the plan Q1, got the data, then reassessed in Q2, started making little changes and intricacies that we needed to, and it's like now we're turning the dials to 11. So we're really cooking in Q3. How's that work for you?
So for us, kind of our seasonality with our lending business being mostly real estate focused and on investors, we see a little bit of slowdown normally in the late winter, early spring months, which is very similar to the whole real estate market, and it picks up mid to end of Q2 and then runs pretty hard through the end of the year. And one of our goals at the beginning of this year was to not necessarily scale capital wise. So for most people watching, in quick draw lending, our cap on our business is our capital. We can't hire more people to be able to lend out more money. We need more capital to be able to do that. But one of our goals from last year to this year is to get more bank financing, which we did acquire, and pay off some of our investors, which brings down our cost of capital, which increases our profit margin. So we've been in the process of doing that the last 2 to 3 months. So it's really going to start showing near the end of the year. It's already showing some in the last 2 months, which is great. But like our goal for this year was not 20 to 30% growth of gross revenue. It's working on the profit margin piece.
Yeah, and those are those little things, those little knobs that you can tweak, whether it's in your business or whether it's in your fitness, and you only know that by looking at the data and understanding how we can do that. I remember a conversation many months ago, well, a couple of years ago now, about understanding your profit margins, and I said, yeah, mine's this. And then they're like, oh, wow, that's amazing. And then once I learned more about it, I was like, oh, crap, it's not. I was looking at completely different numbers, and things were input into wrong categories and stuff like that on my P&L. And now once I understood that data and was able to make these little changes in my business, now we got to that point. But, without you knowing what you're looking at, and I had to hire a coach. I had to hire somebody that knew, that had the result that I was looking for, and I had to learn from him, and then was able to accomplish that.
Yeah, and some things come natural to some people. Like me, I'm a numbers guy. I get weird when it comes to spreadsheets and numbers. I enjoy it, oddly, kind of like a CPA, but I enjoy people. But figuring out those different mechanisms within the leading indicators and within the lagging indicators that can help predict things. Because for example, just going a little bit more in depth of what do you need to tweak for Q3 and Q4 is, yes, your P&L is going to show you what happened in Q2, but do you have KPIs, key performance indicators, showing are your leads in the door growing? Is your closure rate growing? Is your dollar per average sale growing? Because there's a lot of different metrics like that that you need to look at to see if Q3 and Q4 are actually going to be better than the beginning of the year.
Oh yeah, start looking at your marketing numbers. Especially if we're going to talk about business. And say, hey, I'm looking to make $20,000 next month. Okay, well, what's your average sale? And say it's $500. Or just say for math, it's $1,000. So I need to make 20 sales if I'm going to make $20,000. Well, how many people do you have to talk to get one sale? And start figuring out those numbers and really break it down. Like, what do I have to do every day? How many conversations do I have to have with somebody before I'm usually, is that 5 conversations and then I get $1,000 sale out of it? Is it 10 conversations? So understand, okay, well, if that's the case, then how many different, am I making calls, or how many different posts do I have to make, or how many different events do I have to show up to, in any given week to see that many people and to make that many phone calls?
Another good reference point to look at would be a lot of people think about how many 5-star reviews you have on Google. Like, that's a common goal for a lot of smaller business owners, is if you're making progress, awesome. If you do have staff and employees that are pretty much the face of the business to the client and you're not participating to the client, if you're not getting the 5-star reviews, what conversations do you need to have with your staff? Are they not following an SOP correctly? Is the work not getting performed great? And what adjustments need done there? Because that itself is not a number or revenue thing. That's a customer interaction, culture, value thing.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes down to there might be, you might not have a system in place to actually capture a review in your business. You're not actually asking for it. Stuff like that. I remember because when I first started, I was like so grateful when I get a 5-star review, because it was just out of the kindness of somebody's heart to go on Google and do that. But then once I got to a point where we actually started asking, then the reviews started coming in a heck of a lot more. And that's another key piece of data or metric to track, because then it's the more 5-star reviews you have on Google, the higher your SEO is. So the more people you're getting impressions online, so more people are knowing who you are. You're showing up in more places when people search. And all of that comes into play when you're talking about, I want to increase my revenue. Okay, well, that's great that you want to increase it, but what are the little things that we can do? I love to talk about that kind of stuff with business owners because I relate it so much to my fitness journey. And it comes back, okay, I wanted to lose 100 pounds. Like I said, I couldn't do it overnight. So I had to break it down into the things I could do every single day, even sometimes every hour of the day. And if I could cross that off the list and say that I did it, all right, I averaged 400 steps every single hour today. That way I got to my goal of my steps. Or I drank 8 ounces of water every single hour, and I got to my goal. Like, that's how detailed you want to get if you really want to make a change.
The habits are another thing too, and we've talked on habits before, but is there anything in your behavior that needs to shift? Because there's a lot of things that we can look at on spreadsheets and numbers and metrics that are impactful, that tell what direction things need to change in. But does anything need to change with the way that you are acting as a leader? Is there anything that you could be doing better for your team that isn't a number-driven thing, but it's an internal thing to you?
Yeah, like what kind of things are we avoiding? Sometimes we avoid looking at the numbers because they seem scary to us, or we don't understand them. And I usually tell people, if you don't understand your numbers, you're really not going anywhere. Inside your business or inside your health, even inside your relationship, if you don't understand, how to communicate with your spouse or your significant other, whatever it is, and you're probably not growing. You're probably staying stagnant or declining, if anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's you have to have some sort of fire inside of you that wants you to get better somewhere.
Speaking on that side of it, as we really haven't touched on relationship piece on this session or episode, but how often should you have a conversation like this with your spouse, significant other? Because my wife and I, we always have a big annual planning thing that is talking about the next year, but we try probably monthly. And when we go on date night, there's always conversations about business, but we try to intentionally, at least once a month, just do some sort of check-in. Are we making progress in our personal development side together as a relationship? Are we headed towards our goals? Do we need any support or assistance from each other? Is there anything that the other one could do better to help each other grow? And I think that's a very powerful conversation, because if you are not stable, happy, communicative at home, it does reflect in your business.
Yeah, 100%. That's true. And I talk about that with my employees here. It's like, if something's going on at home and then you come into the business and you're bringing that in here, it's going to affect your work, and vice versa. If you feel like you're stressed out at work and you're taking that home, guess what it's going to affect at home? I know this because I lived that life. When I worked for somebody else, I'd come home and I was constantly in a negative mood all the time at home because I was bringing home all this baggage and frustrations and irritations and stuff like that. And it's like, man, it's really, and then, as a man, what do we normally as men do is we try to bottle that up and push it underneath and not try to deal with it and that kind of stuff. And that was just causing more issues. And being vulnerable to those issues and opening up to the person that's the most important person in my life and talking about those things, it was crucial. And it changed everything in my life to actually be open and honest and say, you know what, I'm struggling here. And it seems like I got everything figured out, but newsflash, I really don't have anything figured out. I'm just taking one step at a time here and trying to figure things out. But but together as a team, if we can talk about it and we can build on it, like, once again, anything's possible.
Yeah. I've gotten a comment before, do you ever have a bad day, or is anything ever wrong with you? And I'm like, why do you ask? Mm-hmm. And they're like, because you're always so smiley, bubbly, positive. And I'm like, that's because I need to be. That's the choice that I've made. I've had some very bad, hard days mentally, just with stuff that goes on in life, and it happens weekly. It's part of the journey that we're on, but not a lot of people are welcoming to having those conversations. And we like building communities of people where that is a safe space, but a lot of people only have their significant other, their kids, their parents, their best friend to have those conversations with. But it is normal, but you have to have somebody in your life that you can have those conversations with, because it is very important to not bottle it up. I know in the last week I went to Kat one day and I'm like, I'm having a rough day. And she's like, what can I do for you? And I'm like, you can't do anything, but I just need to voice it, need to tell you what's going on, need to process it, and then we'll move forward. But you need to be able to vocalize stuff like that, because if you are trying to grow quarter over quarter or make an adjustment, sometimes it is as easy as having a tough conversation with somebody.
Yeah. And, you're talking about community. That's one of the reasons that I love the organization, because in that room, that room was built for those things. And I think it's so important, because, before that room that was created, there wasn't an outlet like that. There wasn't a place where we could come and really be open and honest about what's going on in our life and our business, and for people to want to help you. And whether we have 6 people in there, whether we have 26 or 36, whoever's in that room, like they're going through the stuff too.
Yeah.
Or they've been through it, and they have some advice, or they're there just to listen. Okay, I've never gone through that, but I'm going to sit here and listen to you, voice what's going on, and I'm here for moral support. You got this. We'll figure it out together, or you know what? I actually know somebody that went through this, and maybe I can connect you. I have a bigger community or something like that we can connect you with, and it's so valuable, so important. So, and I know that we kind of went down a little bit different of a path there, but that's because what we're talking about is we're talking about our goals, and we're trying to achieve something greater than what we set out to begin with. And there's going to be bumps. There's hiccups in the road, and there's rocks that we couldn't climb when we thought we were going to climb. But instead of giving up on them, we recognize them. We surround ourselves with people that are willing to help and want to help, and then we figure out how to get around them, get through them, over them, however we can do it. And that's one of the reasons we started this podcast.
100%. As we wrap up, I would just say as an exercise for everyone to just look over their goals, see where you are currently presently at, and if anything does need changed. If you are looking at your goals, or you're looking at your P&L and you go, I have no idea where I'm at, I don't know how I got here or where I need to go, please reach out to Dane or I, because we do want to help. We've been there, but before I got serious in entrepreneurship, there were so many years that I'm like, here's my dream, this is what I'm doing this year. Get to the end of the year, say the exact same thing for the next year. And it's just true insanity, because we weren't tracking, we weren't looking, we weren't maintaining anything. So we know how that feels. So if you need any assistance, any advice on just gauging where you're at, where you're trying to go, please reach out. But we have 6 months left in the year. Let's make it a great rest of 2026.
Yep, that's exactly right. So year's half over, but we still have 6 more months to win, and that's what I love to do, is just win every single day. So thanks for listening to the Consistency Engine podcast. I'm Dane Patton. With me is Chase Collier. Have a great day.